Alright, you all ready? Clear prop.
Dine on Skyview.
Alright, we got our map set. Squeaky brakes.
Raton traffic, Skylane, 759er Hotel Romeo. We're at the hold short of Alpha 2, ready to take 20 for straight out departure to the south. Raton traffic, Skylane, 9er Hotel Romeo, taking off 20 south departure.
Alright, turn that guy off until we get airborne. Alright, we got our fuel reset, we got our waypoint, the engine's good, everything's coming up. Wheels on, canopy slash trim is set. Do our run up. Good. Good. Try our cutoff. Good. Alright. Big old raven sitting in that tree. I don't see anybody, I don't hear anybody. That guy took off and he's going straight out. I see him. Alright, I think we're ready to go, Ice. You ready? Raton traffic, experimental 604 Charlie Mike, departing 20. We'll be making a left downwind departure to the north. Raton.
604 Charlie Mike, this is Express Aviation Raton. Sir, your wind speed at 140 at 05.
Roger. Thanks for everything. We'll see you next time.
I hope so. Better come back.
Roger that.
Caution.
Raton traffic, Skylane, Niner Hotel Romeo, 5 to the south. Climbing through 8,500 for 10,300. Last transmission, Raton. Niner Hotel Romeo, Raton.
a nice stop, guys. Very friendly people. Good free food. What's not to like, huh?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Cool little valley over here.
Yeah.
Somewhere down on I-25, Randy is driving away. If you see him, let me know. We'll come down and wave.
Still at the beach. For the level 5.
All right, 1 hour to go.
News desk. Here's two of the craziest guys we could find south of the equator. It's Steve Fisher and Grant McHerron from the Plain Crazy Down Under podcast.
Well, good day folks, and welcome to the Australia Desk for episode 327. Well, it's Steve here. I am flying solo again this week. Unfortunately, Grant's not able to be with us again tonight. Grant very, very busy with his day job, or in Grant's case, day, night, and every other time of the day job. He's a very, very busy guy at the moment. Finding it hard to do a bit of podcasting, but we both are at the moment. But here we are at the desk. Now, I thought instead of doing some of the usual news this week, we do something a little bit different. In fact, we're going to talk about warbirds. Now, back in early September, the Australian National Aviation Museum celebrated a rather significant anniversary, and that is the 75th anniversary of the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation Wirraway. The Wirraway was a very significant aircraft in Royal Australian Air Force history, primarily used as a trainer, but was also used for some combat duties back in World War II. And it was a locally produced aircraft, a variant of the, I believe, the North American NA-16. I'm sure David can enlighten us a lot more about that at the end of this segment. But we dispatched Max Flight's favourite Australian, Anthony Simmons, out to Moorabbin Airport to observe the celebrations and grab an interview or two.
I'm here at the Australian National Aviation Museum for the 75th anniversary of the CAC, Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation's Wirraway aircraft. And with me is Ewan MacArthur. He's the Secretary of the Australian National Aviation Museum, and James Kitely, aviation journalist. Gentlemen, welcome to you both.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
If I can ask you, James, to start with, about the history of the CAC Wirraway, and then if you could follow up on the history of this particular aircraft.
Certainly. Well, the Wirraway is a very important aircraft in Australian history, aviation history particularly, of course.
County traffic, Gavage 721 over Bravo is about 11 to the west, or east rather.
Or whatever, but this particular design was brought in. It's an American design, and we produced it in Australia, but we actually built both the aircraft and the engines. The company was set up in 1936. First production flights were in 1939, which is where we're on the 75th anniversary of. And the aircraft, as I say, it was very important in Australian history because we hadn't actually built cars from scratch in Australia. So we went straight from farm machinery and railway support equipment to what was the highest level of technology of the time back then. And we did very well at it. The Wirraway was a good aircraft. So they built, starting with number 1, and we got to number 10 75 years ago.
Yes. Exactly. And in actual fact, just to make things a little bit more confusing, it's the this particular aircraft is the 8th
Who
production.
says that like it's a point of pride? And we got to number 10.
Actually, the North American trainers, and then they commenced production work. So basically, what we have here is the oldest surviving Wirraway in the world. But not only that, it's actually the oldest surviving Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation aircraft now in the world. So it's actually got a dual significance in both forms. So we picked this one up from CAC many years ago, and it's undergone numerous restorations. This one, however, has been probably the most extensive one, I think, done in at least 30 to 40 years.
So this is not only a fairly groundbreaking aircraft, but a very historical aircraft in terms of Australian aviation history.
Absolutely. Well, especially with today being the 6th of September, this actually is the celebration today on this day, according to its logbook when it made its first flight.
Wow, impressive.
It's basically, it's having a very special day as a result. The finish that it's been done in is the exact finish that it would have rolled off the production line. Only the first 22 or 23, I think, were in silver. And then after that, they moved into the wartime camouflage finish. And so, yeah, so this one also, as I understand, is now the only, I think it's the only Wirraway now that's in silver.
Currently, I believe so, yeah.
I don't think there's any others.
And can you give me a bit of a background in regards to the actual restoration project itself? You know, an idea of how much effort's gone in?
Yeah, absolutely. This particular project is basically all volunteer hours, and started about 2.5 months ago. Now, by way of comparison, the other big CAC restoration that has been done at the museum was the CAC series, which is what the Wirraway evolved into post-war. That particular restoration took 10 years. So what you're looking at essentially is the result of people turning up every weekend. We're talking a lot of younger people turning up, which has been fantastic under the guys. They've been under the careful eye of Ash Briggs, who is the chairman of the museum, but also a master restorer of aircraft. It's highly considered worldwide for the work that he does. So basically we stripped it down, replaced a lot of parts that were too corroded, and of course, being 75 years old, that metal wasn't made to last back then, so there was a lot of stuff there that required replacing. But yeah, the beauty of it was that a lot of younger people came in, and we estimate conservatively probably about 2,500 hours over the last couple of months has been placed on this aircraft to actually bring it back to standard. We still have the original logbook. Might even see if we can dig that out a bit later and show people. We reunited the aircraft with one of its original pilots earlier in the year, 94-year-old Murray Adams, who remarked upon seeing it for the first time that he was sure that he'd left it in better condition when he'd flown it. But they're always a dime a dozen, those pilots. But no, it was wonderful just to be able to do that, because unfortunately that's becoming too much of a rarity now.
Well, folks, so if you're interested, why not pop down and have a bit of a wander around the Australian National Aviation Museum? I can highly recommend it. It's very, very impressive. Well, Ewan, James, thanks once again from PCDU.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And thank you, Anthony. A fantastic interview there. That's in fact a cut-down version of about a 10-minute interview, which we'll be releasing a bit later on in the year. Well, I should say that it's already December, isn't it? So we'd better get on with it. The Wirraway, as you heard there, quite a significant aircraft in Australia's aviation history. Introduced in 1939, and they flew them for about 20 years, retiring them in 1959. There were some 755 of them produced, and they were all produced here in Australia, except of course for those first two development aircraft, as you heard. And for local listeners, if you haven't been out to the Aviation Museum there at Moorabbin, there's a lot of fantastic aircraft out there, and well worth the visit if you're ever out that way. Well, that's everything I have for you on this week's Australia Desk. I suppose we'll try and wheel Green back in next week. I think that'd be good. In fact, we might make him do a bit more work next week. Until then, I'm Steve Vischer. Cheers, folks.
And thanks, Steve, and especially thanks to Anthony Simmons. Great interview. You know, Steve sent along a photo of the Wirraway. This was taken by someone, Canvas Wings, on Twitter. We'll have to put this in the show notes, of course. But Canvas Wings, if you're interested in vintage aircraft, this is a great guy to follow. He's got some really nice photos, you know, historic photos and modern photos of historic aircraft. Lots of tweets on that topic. This is a great one. I'm going to follow this guy as soon as we're done reading this show.
Hey Max, I was just wondering, why on the airplane do they print that bullseye target? That just seems like a bad idea on an aircraft that's flying during wartime.
That's, I guess I've heard that before. I don't know if I've heard a really good answer to that one, though. But, yeah. It's a great photo, though. Yeah.
Make it fair for the enemy.
Huh?
Make it at least slightly fair for the enemy.
Cross the
Yeah.
Seattle Tower, Skyhawk 5440 Hotel, 10 miles southwest, looking for VFR transition west to east towards Renton.
Skyhawk 5440 Hotel, Seattle Tower, clear through Seattle Bravo airspace, cross over the numbers of runway 34 center, maintain 2000 while in Bravo airspace.
Okay, 40 Hotel, cleared for the Bravo, 2000, crossing 34 center, 40 Hotel.
This week we welcome back our adopted general aviation pilot, Neil Braden. Neil, really big welcome back across this side of the pond.
Thank you, and I am literally on this side of the pond. I'm absolutely delighted to be back on the show again.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you. When we last spoke, you were planning your return to Europe. You're back now. Just give us an update on where things are for you.
Well, sadly, I returned in May of this year, and the American dream finally had to come to an end. We knew this day would come eventually, so I've tried to think about how I could summarise the last 12 months. I certainly can't be accused of not making the most of my time in the US, and I think I've highlighted 3 pretty awesome events that I went to. So I attended the Aviation Geek Fest 2014 in Seattle earlier this year, where we got to go to the 2 Boeing factories. The one in
very jealous, very jealous.
Yeah, we actually got to go on the at Painfield. We actually got to go on the floor, on the production floor on the weekend. Underneath we were underneath a 777 from Singapore Airlines at the time.
Wow.
And then we got to go to the Renton factory, which I believe only is either 10,000 or 30,000 people get to go in there a year. But yeah, it's not really open to the public. So we saw the 2 737 production lines, and that just blew me away. Another thing that I did was I had my first seaplane flight out of Lake Union in Seattle.
Oh yeah.
And I can't really describe the feeling of being an aircraft and then suddenly becoming a boat. I think that was definitely in the top 5 that I did.
Yeah.
And my last flight in the US in May, I reached 40 airports that I landed at with a total time of 230 hours. So I don't want anyone ever on social media accusing me of not making the most of my my time in the US.
No, I don't think anyone would ever do that. And we've all watched with a great deal of interest in what you've been up to, and it's been a great story. But you've managed to fly again back home here in Ireland. Tell us a little bit about what the differences are. What did it feel like?
So my primary training started in Ireland back in the year 2000, so coming back was a natural progression. It felt familiar. I went flying with my original CFI. I wouldn't say it wasn't like it just left, but the airspace was familiar. The challenge I have now is, apart from the $250 an hour rental for a Cessna 172.
Is that wet or dry?
That's wet, frankly. Okay. Apart from that, I also have to find the $5 for each touch and go that I take. So my last flight, I did 6 touch and goes and a full stop. So you can see how much that soon adds up. So, although it being a familiar environment, the challenge is for aviation over here is finding the funds. Now, on a positive note, right now I am able to use my FAA license to rent aircrafts here in Ireland.
Okay.
I just need to get checked in with the Irish Aviation Authority to close out all the paperwork. So, providing that ESA doesn't change this in the future, I will certainly be looking forward to flying more in 2015.
Right, okay. Now, Neil, we've been along this journey with you. I think we first spoke back in September 2011. As we complete this phase of your flying journey, what advice and wisdom can you give us from all of this experience?
So I'm going to split this answer into 2. I think I'm going to go for the left side of the pond and the right side of the pond. So those people out over in the US, my advice is to them is to continue to immerse themselves in aviation as often as they can, because general aviation is so special in America, and I challenge all those pilots out there to try and introduce someone new to GA this month. I'm proud to say that of all the times I flew over there, I only had an empty right seat once. Nothing gave me more pleasure than introducing new people to flying.
Yeah.
The time I went flying. And I also challenge those newer pilots out there in the US to start planning some bigger adventures. You know, only in the US could you land at an international airport and then the following day be sharing the passing with an F-16 or an A-10.
Yeah, you were very lucky, very, very lucky.
And for the people over on this side of the pond, I guess it takes myself back to where I was 12 years ago when my journey started. Don't want people to give up chasing their aviation dream, because one day they might just get the breakthrough that I got, and they should really, really never give up hope.
Right, well that's certainly great advice. I will be taking a little snippet of that myself. Neil, it's been a fantastic journey. We will stay in touch and keep an eye on what you're up to. I know you've recently had contact with Mark Maiden as well, so we want to see your adventures there as well.
Yeah, Ireland will never be the same after myself and Mark get together a little bit more often. But before I finish up, I do want to say a couple of thank yous if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead, fire away.
Yeah, I would like to say thanks to Jill Tolman from AOPA for the coverage she's provided while I was in the US. And then a big thanks to yourself, Max, Rob and David for the coverage you provided on the Airplane Geeks since September 2011.
Wow, thanks very much, really appreciate it. We've enjoyed watching your journey, almost felt like we were sitting in that right seat with you. It's been fantastic. We're very proud of the success you've had, and we'll continue to watch your progress with excitement. Neil, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Peter. Goodbye.
Basic on the com.
54288, Sedona, Tower 3001.
3001, and actually, so I'm happy to cancel VFR flight following and go en route.
Tower 288, roger, copy, 550, change approved, we'll see you later.
Change approved, Skyhawk 288, see ya.
Well, thanks, Peter, for that. Great to get an update from Neil. You can follow his blog at getmyppt.blogspot.com, and on Twitter you can find Neil at pilot_NGB.
Yeah, it's really great to see someone go through the program and successfully complete it, be able to follow them along the way.
Absolutely, yeah. It does add a lot of interest to that. Peter sent along, or maybe Neil sent along a photo of himself and the plane, and we'll have that in the show notes. Neil also mentioned the Aviation Geek Fest that he attended, and that's definitely worth mentioning. If you are unaware of these, David Parker Brown does this each year. I think this is about the 6th year, maybe, that he's done this in Seattle, in the Seattle area. The 2015 event is February 21st and 22nd, and this has become gigantically popular. David Parker Brown ends up getting access to, some facilities that you can't easily get access to on your own, some of the Boeing plants and things like that. And I guess the group is limited in size for obvious reasons. So if you're interested in that, you can find out more at airlinereporter.com. You can find the page, or just Google Aviation Geek Fest, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes. That's Rob, that's something that we need to do one of these years.
Yeah, I tried to get tickets for it, by going directly to him, and he said, stand in line with everyone else.
I was going to say, we're going to do that right after you show up at Oshkosh.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. This is, but we did request last year, because these things have been held on Valentine's Day weekend, and for 2015, Aviation Geek Fest is not on Valentine's weekend. So, I think David Parker Brown maybe listened to us on that. He tried to accommodate, I guess, Rob. We're gonna let him down this year. But
oh, sure. And my wife said you're going to go to Seattle and leave me home. Right.
Yeah, by moving it, that just makes it even harder to get tickets. So, I'm more upset than most, I guess, over that, because I would go.
All right. Well, if you're interested, take a look at the website at airlinereporter.com. He's got links to the event from the last few years. You can find pictures and description of what they've done, what they've accomplished, and got to give David a lot of credit for pulling this off year after year. You got to imagine this is a big effort to coordinate and manage. And, job to David Parker Brown. Moving on to some listener mail. We heard from Juan. Juan sent us a photo. He was in Calgary. He spotted a Royal Canadian Air Force plane, and he said he thought it was an MRTT that based on the A330, and he sent along a photo which we'll put in the show notes. Asked if we could shed some light on this airplane. David came back and said that that's the Voyager KC-2 of the RAF, and David provided a video on YouTube that we'll put in the show notes, so you can take a look at that. Also, sort of in our continuing drone coverage, Tom sent us a press report. This was on the NTSB ruling in the Perker versus FAA appeal. And, this is the recent news story that came out, I guess, kind of just before the past week's conversations about what the FAA NPRM may look like. But just briefly, for those that haven't been following this, this goes back to a flight by Raphael Perker with his quadcopter and camera back in 2011, where he was photographing, videotaping over the University of Virginia for them. And several years later, the FAA declared that to be, well, both a commercial use of a UAV and therefore not allowable, but also that he was flying in an unsafe manner. Perker was fined $10,000 by the FAA, which he appealed. Now, when you appeal a fine from the FAA, that goes to the NTSB, and the first step in that process is an administrative law judge who reviewed the case and ended up siding with Perker, really based on two main points. One was that the FAA does not have any regulations in place officially that govern UAVs. They have policy statements and some declarations like that, but none of them pass the test of falling into the regulatory category. And the other thing is that the NTSB administrative law judge declared that Perker's UAV was in fact a model aircraft, and the FAA has a long history of not regulating model aircraft, and instead leaving that to model aircrafters, and so he rejected it on that. Well, the FAA appealed, and when that happens, the appeal is made to to the NTSB board itself. And what just happened recently is the board came back with its determination that the quadcopter does fall under the definition of an aircraft as defined by existing code, U.S. code and regulations. And so he remanded the case back to the NTSB administrative law judge, which is where it stands now. So it's a case that, well, this could go on for quite some time. I know a number of people when the NTSB administrative law judge first ruled earlier this year that or sided with Perker, everyone thought this was an indication that it's okay to go out and fly commercial missions with UAVs, which is not really the case. People jumped the gun on that assumption. So thanks to Tom for kind of passing that along. And again, not to make this another UAV Digest episode, but for those that are interested in that topic, you can follow along on the show that David and I do each week.
Did you ever get to see that video that was the source of all the controversy?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I saw it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it really raises a number of issues. There are, without doubt, and I think actually Perker might fall into this category, there are some quadcopter or UAV pilots who are very skilled, who know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. They really fly professionally in terms of their capabilities to operate these kind of craft. Having said that, in this video, you see Perker flying this thing close to some automobiles. There's a sort of a walkway over a road that he flies under, and then there's sort of a short tunnel that he flies through. And even if you say that, well, you know, that's not a challenge for somebody as skilled as this guy, perhaps, put yourself in the position of an automobile, and you're coming out of a tunnel, and there you see 20, 30 feet above you this object hurtling towards you. That's a way to cause an accident. So I'm not so sure that this doesn't represent an unsafe flight. I don't know. What did you think, Rob? Did you think this was an example of safe operation?
Well, it's funny because the first time I saw it, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I was just mesmerized because I wasn't even certain at first what I was seeing, because I just had never seen any videos like that. At first I said, well, gee, this must be, what would you call it?
Some really good computer.
Yeah, computer enhanced or something, and then I realized what it was, and oh, sure. But of course, to be fair, that's not what the NTSB ruled on. They didn't rule on whether his flight was actually reckless or not. They're going to leave that for the FAA, and all they did was say that, yep, the FAA can tell you what to do in this case. So, but I do think your point is well taken, that when they ruled for this fellow initially, that many other people said, oh, it's not that big a deal, come on, how are they going to catch you? And it kind of got out of hand.
It did. There are many people out there who are flying commercially, and many of them are not shy about it at all. I mean, I've seen the stories reported in magazines, national magazines, describing, for example, a session filming commercials for an auto manufacturer. I think some people think that they can do it and it's not a problem. Other people know that it's kind of an issue with the FAA, but to do it anyway, there's a whole spectrum of folks. But the people that I worry about the most, and I think this is, when we see about all these stories about the quadcopters getting close to commercial aircraft at JFK and other airports, is that I think in many cases these are from people that don't come from a background in aviation. They don't understand aviation safety. And I've said this in the past, but the people who grew up with radio-controlled aircraft really grew up in a culture of safe operation. People that go into Amazon and say, for $800 or $1,200, I can buy this DJI Phantom with a GoPro camera and create amazing videos. What a blast. I'm going to go out there and fly around. Those are the people that in many cases don't appreciate the safety aspects of flying in the airspace. And those are the dangerous people, I think.
Well, yeah, and right now there is no regulation at all other than this ruling the other day that said the FAA has the authority to look at these things as if they are model airplanes. And hence why I was getting a little crazy with this lady on CNBC last week to say that it's the same thing as an Airbus, which is even scarier. She just completely went out of left field there, and I think that's the problem, is that people don't feel like the drone industry has a focus on safety. They have a focus on getting them built and getting them flown, which is okay, but there's a third leg to the stool.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And the technology is amazing. Some people have asked me, where did drones come from? Why do we have all these things all of a sudden? What made all this possible? And
33905
because the technology's developed for smartphones, small, lightweight, low power.
I never know
motion sensors, all of those kinds of things. Those are integrated into these small UAVs and make this possible. You can do first-person view where you fly this thing out of your sight, but the camera is transmitting back to you. You're looking at a little screen, just like the guys in Arizona directing the military drones. The capabilities are amazing, and for people who like to fly stuff, the attraction is very great. But it's like you say, Rob, there are lapses or we are lacking in awareness, I think, in terms of what the responsibilities are, what the issues are, and have people flying in a dangerous manner. Not that they're trying to be dangerous, or not that they're, they're just not aware of what the issues are.
Well, and sure, and I think it is similar to the way that laser pointers started out. It was just kind of cool, and you could do fun things with it. And then you had people kind of go off on a tangent because it wasn't regulated, and anybody could buy them, and the power was whatever it was. And people started doing some really stupid things with them. And the fact that we have any reports of these things flying around an airport tells me that there are probably way more of them than we know about, and these just happen to be the ones that people have seen. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, that's dangerous. It really is.
It's so dangerous.
Well, it's not only dangerous around airports. The other day I was over at the Rose Bowl, and I was riding my bike around the Rose Bowl, and there's a park, and they have 3 soccer fields set up, so people were playing soccer, and across the way a little bit, people were using their UAVs, and some had radio-controlled aircraft as well. But this one quadcopter, for whatever reason, ran out of battery, pilot was distracted, whatever, it ended up crashing in the middle of the soccer game. Now, fortunately, it didn't hit anyone, but I see that as being equally as dangerous as flying it into an airplane.
Yeah, for sure, because, some of these things have some really powerful motors spinning at really high RPMs. Some of the more, I'll say, toy-like quadcopters, they don't really represent that much of a danger, but there are others, these big, powerful ones, carbon fiber blades. Those things could do a lot of damage to not only personal property, but to human beings. This could be a very ugly situation, and it feels like it's almost inevitable that it's going to happen, and it's going to be really unfortunate. But
I don't think there's any doubt. I don't think you can see this many drones coming online without somebody, without one of these things getting loose. It's going to happen, and then everyone's going to say, how did this happen? Oh my gosh, why doesn't the FAA do something about that?
This way we can kind of close this conversation, but I'm not envious of the task that the FAA has. I mean, I've criticized the FAA. A lot of people have criticized the FAA for taking too long and, holding up the development of, opportunities for these things. But honestly, I'd really hate to be in their shoes. They've got a really, really difficult task to pull this off. One way to look at this, and I'm not the originator of this concept, but go back to the Wright brothers and think about, okay, maybe a few months after the first flight, there's some flights under their belts, aviation is just getting started. What if at that time you said, the FAA didn't exist, but what if that time you said, okay, go off and develop the regulations for aviation? Where would you start? You don't know where to start because you don't have any history or any significant history of flight. We're kind of in the same situation with UAVs right now. They fly, they're out there, we know a little bit about them, but when it comes to their operation in the national airspace with other aircraft, we don't have a lot of experience. It's difficult to create regulations for something that doesn't really exist yet. You know what I mean, Rob?
Sure. Well, in fact, it's funny, after that Aviation Minute a couple of weeks ago, somebody sent me a paper. I can't remember the name of the group. It was some defense group that was looking into the technology itself. You might already know about it, but it said that the sense and avoid technology for whatever category of drone we decide this is necessary for is still a long way away from being practical. So I don't know what they're going to do with this at that point.
Yeah, and the FAA is starting with small UAVs, right? That's what they're looking at now. There's the whole other part of the spectrum of UAVs. There's the big long endurance, high altitude UAVs. That's kind of also easy because they're maybe mostly above commercial airspace. But it's the whole group of craft in the middle that you got to have sense of the void. They're coexisting in the same airspace, and so you have to develop the technologies that keep that airspace safe. And we're a ways away from that. We're probably years away from that, and you can't force it, or you shouldn't force it, before the technology is ready, and before the understanding of the dynamics of having all these aircraft of various sorts, manned and unmanned, in the same airspace. It's going to take time. I don't think there's any way around it. Well, okay, so with that, I think we should close this episode of the Airplane Geeks podcast. I want to thank you all for listening. This has been episode 327. So you can find us at airplanegeeks.com. The show notes are available directly at airplanegeeks.com/327. We want to thank our guest, Victoria Zyko. You can find her, all over turbotheflyingdog.com, stuckmikeavcast.com, thepixiepilot.com, of course, Turbo the Flying Dog on Twitter, also on Twitter, stuckmikeavcast, and all the other places that she mentioned, and we'll try to collect them all in the show notes. You can also find out more about us in our contributors at airplanegeeks.net. That has links to websites, recent episodes. You can actually listen to some episodes right from that site, tweets, contact information, lots more. And that's for the Airplane Geeks podcast, this one. Also Rob's Jetwine blog, the UAV Digest podcast that David and I do. Also his What Just Flew By blog. And also from our contributors, the Plane Crazy Down Under podcast and the Aviation Extended podcast. All that at airplanegeeks.net. All right. Opening and closing music is by Brother Love. Find him at brotherloverocks.com. Rob, any closing thoughts? Put you on the spot.
No, actually, I have nothing. I have nothing to close with other than say thank you for listening, and come back next week.
How about you, Brian? Anything you'd like to finish off with?
Oh, I might get some fans with this one or lose some. I'm not quite sure which, but I hope next week we don't talk so much about drones.
I know I think we're gonna hear a little bit about that. So, yeah, we'll cut that back for sure.
It's my fault.
Nah, we all.
No, and I hope everyone in the States had a real happy Turkey Day and didn't eat too much and suffer the ill effects of tryptophan and all that stuff. So.
Effect. Arrivals requesting approach services. Contact Denver approach on 120.1. Advise on initial contact. You have information Delta. Pueblo Tower information Delta automated with our observation 1953 Zulu. Wind calm, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 11, viewpoint -2, altimeter 3016. Visual approach is in use, landing runways 26 left and right. The hold short operations are in effect. Arrivals requesting approach services. Contact Denver approach on 120.1. Advise on initial contact.
A1 Zulu, where you at? That's A1 Zulu. I am about 1 mile southeast runway 29.
CNBC, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's Rob and this other woman, but they were asking Rob a question, and the woman, back and forth, and that was all. It was all very nice. And
so that's Pueblo right there. You can see all the hangar buildings.
Answer.
And the runways are just on the other side. One runway is going right off like that, the north-south runway.
Control room.
Yes.
Was smart enough to they switched to you, Rob, and they caught the tail end of the classic Rob Mark eye rolling. It was
It's even better than the regular eye rolling, because I think I shook my head at the same time. And so it's funny, when I showed it to my daughter when she was home at Thanksgiving, she said, "Oh my God, Dad, you're on TV!"
Well, so they couldn't resist. I think they were done with the segment, but they said, oh, well, we're really out of time, but Rob, you look like, something like this. Rob, you look like you disagree. They had you, Rob.
Tower 3, Silver Foxtrot, 1 mile final.
Tango Foxtrot, wind, calm, runway 17, cleared to land.
Clear to land on runway 17, to Echo Foxtrot.
How you doing?
We're great. How are you? Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I went to like the orphans Thanksgiving because my husband was out of town, but it was good.
And so to top it off, you decided to hang out with a bunch of turkeys tonight.
I forgot. I was on this show back in January, and that's when I was having frost quakes on my deck, and it was scaring the hell out of me.
Frost quakes?
Yes, they're when water suddenly freezes in the wood on the deck, and it creates this popping sound, and it sounds like gunshots. And I remember listening to this while trying to be calm and record, and wondering what the hell was going on.
So the last time you were on this show, you thought people were shooting at you.
Yes.
Tonight, you're in your PJs and you are burning up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good things happen when I'm hanging out with you.
Rob, 3 podcasters walk into a bar. I'm sorry, yes.
The first one gives a countdown.
All right.
That would be you, Rob.
Oh, that would be me, right. 1.
There's the museum down there. As you can see, the plane parked out by the 2 hangars.
I'm sorry.
Tango Foxtrot, turn left, taxiway Alpha 2, exit parking.
Alright, let's go left at Alpha 2 to Echo Foxtrot.
He's in the middle of the runway, coming down to the south. Right on the center line stripe, right in the middle. See him down there?
Yeah.
Alright, will you put that back in the pocket?
Tower Katana 0 Golf Foxtrot. There's a Spitfire grill straight ahead towards the end.
The closest parking will be in front of Flower, which is closed. It's the far building ahead and right. And you can walk through the gate there. I believe they closed at 2:30 though, so you might want to hurry.
Yeah, we're trying. Thanks. 0 Golf Foxtrot.
You got 20 minutes. We'll call ahead and tell them, hey, we're going to be there in just a couple minutes. Yeah, throw a couple of burgers on for us.
Barge 4, Uniform Alpha, turning left base, 15, Meadowlake. Go box. Meadowlake traffic, go by 4 Uniform Alpha, turning final 15, 4 touch and go. Meadowlake.
Fish 362, spec Romeo 17 left, sliding 360, vector 5.
17 left and 360 heading, Air Shuttle 5362.
The 70 November, roger, flying 260. PC 5362, gonna change your runway, spec 17 right. Sorry, Air Shuttle 5362, spec runway 17 right now.
Alright, 17 right, Air Shuttle 5362.
Air Shuttle 5362, send to maintain 1000.
1000, Air Shuttle 5362.
What we're listening to,
roger, flighting 270.
What we're listening to is the approach control coming into Colorado Springs. They're getting everybody all sequenced in, the right altitude, right spacing, and then they'll hand them off to the tower. That way the tower only has to control the airplanes that are right close to the airport.
Zip out 5 Romeo Tango, fly heading 290, vector 6. The 70 November, enter left base 17 left, contact the tower 119.9. Shuttle 5362, turn back left heading 350.
350 heading, Air Shuttle 5362.
Shuttle 5362, affirmative 350. Zip out 5 Romeo Tango, use caution on Meadowlake Airport showing numerous targets, 7,500 and below. Indicated. Alpha Romeo Tango, turn back left heading 260. The shuttle 5362, reduce speed to 170.
Speed to 170, shuttle
23 Sierra, just maneuver in that area for a little bit. I gotta get a couple of bounds and I'll get you. 96 Charlie, contact the tower, 119.9. Pop 5 Romeo Tango, Rosemont navigation, left base, runway 17 right. Keep your speed up for me, please. Pop 5 Romeo Tango, you copy? Pop 5 Romeo Tango, contact the tower, 119.9, I'll see you. The shuttle 5362, base turn in about 10.
Roger, shuttle 5362.
Flies down 359 Charlie Tango, contact Denver approach 120.1. Shuttle 5362, descend and maintain 9,000.
9,000, Air Shuttle 5362.
Air Shuttle 5362, turn left heading 260, that heading to airport will be 10 o'clock and 7 miles.
Alright, 260 heading way other field side, Air Shuttle 5362.
Air 5362, clear visual approach, runway 17 right.
Clear visual 17 right, Air Shuttle 5362.
But answer 23 Sierra, you can proceed under runway 17 right now. Verify information gate. Sierra, just verify runway 17 right. Shuttle 5362, you're following a jet prop on a 2-mile final, contact the tower, 119.9, we'll see you.
199, Air Shuttle 5362.
Dew point minus 4, altimeter 3018. Meadowlake Airport, automated weather observation 2117 Zulu, weather, wind 190 at 4, visibility 10, clear, low 12,000, temperature 11 Celsius, dew point minus
It's Dragon Man. There's the paintball park. A lot of barricades.
Meadowlake traffic, go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on crosswind for runway 15, Meadowlake.
Meadowlake traffic, experimental Sonic 604 Charlie Mike, 6 miles south. We'll be airing on a left downwind for 15 Meadowlake.
Meadowlake traffic, go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on downwind for touch and go, runway 15, Meadowlake.
Alright guys, there we are, right over there. We're going to be on the ground in just a couple minutes. Turn off your seat heater, make sure everything's kind of wrapped up. Head on a swivel now that we're close to the pattern. Double check your seatbelt. Everything's good, fuel's good. We don't need to make any adjustments to throttle. We're at good altitude. Keep it up a little. Alright, we're in a good position for downwind. Now if there's traffic in the pattern, they're going to be coming this way and then turning across. So they're going to be in this area over here. We got to be watching for them.
Meadowlake traffic, this is go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on downwind for runway 15, touch and go, Meadowlake. Turning left base.
I was going to say, we called downwind a minute ago. Meadowlake traffic, Sonic 604 Charlie Mike, downwind, 15, full stop, Meadowlake.
Meadowlake traffic is go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on final for touch and go, runway 15, Meadowlake.
I still don't see him. Oh, there he is. He's just over the trees, coming in on final. Just over the farmhouse now.
Yep.
Meadowlake traffic, Sonic 604 Charlie Mike, turning base, 15, full stop, Meadowlake. Alright, just double check your seatbelt, make sure it's snug. Meadowlake traffic, Sonic 604 Charlie Mike, final 15 Meadowlake.
traffic, Go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on crosswind for runway 15, Meadowlake. Meadowlake traffic, this is Go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left for downwind, Meadowlake.
That's Carl and his 175. Carl, you going flying?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to head out.
Well, I just got back from Albuquerque.
How was it?
Yeah, it's windy, but good flight. Bunch of t-shirts on the wall there, probably students that have soloed.
Had like a upstairs office. Cool.
Meadowlake traffic, Go Bosch 4 Uniform Alpha, turning left on base for runway 15, Meadowlake.
John's pulling the trailer out. But he's in the way! He's like, get out of the way. Not that it really matters because the Camaro's in the inside the hangar. All right. That was a great flight, Ice. Good job.